In 1887, Francesco Forgione was born in the small farming town of Pietrelcina. Decades before the world knew him as Padre Pio, his early life as a Capuchin friar followed a conventional path. Everything changed on September 20th, 1918. While praying in the friary choir, Francesco reported a sudden, sharp pain. When it passed, his hands, feet, and side were bleeding from deep lacerations. These were the stigmata. What sets this case apart is the timeline. Padre Pio remained at this friary in San Giovanni Rotondo, bleeding from these wounds for exactly 50 years. Evaluating a half-century of bleeding wounds requires setting aside both devotional stories and skeptical assumptions to look at the medical record. We use a Bayesian probability model to analyze the data. We start with a 50-50 prior, assigning equal initial likelihood to a natural medical condition and a supernatural event. Understanding Padre Pio requires treating his 50 years of wounds as an active chronological medical dossier. The 1919 medical reports split the evidence. While the local physician was non-committal, Chief Surgeon Dr. Luigi Romanelli concluded the wounds had no natural cause. Then, pathologist Amico Bignami argued they were maintained artificially using caustic chemicals, specifically iodine. Bignami tested this theory by sealing Padre Pio's hands in tamper-proof bandages for 8 days. If chemicals were being applied in secret, the seal would allow the skin to heal. Instead, the wounds continued to bleed. Despite that result, the Vatican remained wary. Father Agostino Gemelli, a psychologist, labeled Pio a self-mutilating psychopath, though he later admitted he never actually performed a physical examination of the wounds. In 1921, an official apostolic visitor, Bishop Rossi, took a more measured approach. He dismissed several reported miracles, but confirmed that the physical wounds on Pio's hands were real and persistently open. By the early 1920s, the medical consensus was fractured. Skeptics had a theory for fraud, yet no investigator could prove it or force the wounds to close under observation. This stalemate was challenged in 2007 when historian Sergio Luzzatto uncovered new evidence in the Vatican archives. Luzzatto found a verified 1919 letter from Padre Pio requesting the secret delivery of pure carbolic acid. Carbolic acid is a caustic substance. Applied to skin, it creates severe burns, providing a natural mechanism for the stigmata. However, the request was for only 4 grams, a quantity too small to maintain multiple wounds for any significant time. There is also a historical explanation for the chemical. During the 1919 Spanish flu pandemic, carbolic acid was the standard disinfectant for syringes, and the friars were busy administering injections to local students. Medical examiners also noted a discrepancy in the pathology. Phenol burns produced distinct, sharply inflamed edges and white necrotic tissue. But multiple doctors reported that Pio's wounds were perfectly clean and lacked any signs of chemical inflammation. The archival discovery confirms the 1919 request for chemicals, but the biological reality of those wounds doesn't align with the known effects of a caustic burn. A naturalistic explanation suggests that a psychosomatic trigger in 1918 was maintained for decades by the secret use of iodine or phenol. But that theory fails to account for 2 significant facts. Pio lived for 50 years with open wounds in a pre-antibiotic era without a single infection, and he avoided detection while under constant scrutiny from hostile observers. There is also the odor of sanctity. Hostile investigators and skeptics alike repeatedly reported a floral perfume coming from the wounds, a phenomenon that simple chemistry or metabolism struggles to explain. The final anomaly appeared at Padre Pio's death in 1968. If wounds are kept open for 50 years using chemicals or physical irritation, they leave permanent, heavy scarring. Yet the friars who prepared his body reported that the skin where the stigmata had been was perfectly smooth and completely unblemished. When we calculate the final probability, balancing the credible evidence of chemical requests against the extreme statistical improbability of surviving 50 years of open wounds without infection or scarring, the model settles at 58%. This score reflects a case where the physical evidence just manages to outweigh the historical red flags. The stigmata of Padre Pio remains a documented medical mystery. It is a case where the biological anomalies continue to linger, even when faced with the evidence of human frailty.